Dylan Raiola just wrapped up his private workout event down in Texas with multiple Husker receivers and tight ends. So in today's video, I'm going to give you the inside scoop on everything that happened. How did Dylan Raiola perform? How about Jacory, Barney, Dane, Nyziah, Hunter? There was a surprise Nebraska player who ended up making the trip. I'll let you know who that is and everything else you need to know. And then summer workouts begin tomorrow for Nebraska. I'll let you know all the storylines that I'm looking out for and why this is a very important period for the Huskers. And then last but not least, Nebraska. They are hosting a huge recruiting camp today. Trey Taylor is back in town along with a bunch of other big-time prospects. I'll give you the scoop there on everything you need to know. So really quick, big-time video. Hit that like button if you're fired up, or if you're just having a good day, hit that like button. And really quick, please, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Now is the time. Subscribe. Daily Husker football content. Join this family. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it talking about Dylan Raiola's private workout event down in Texas with multiple Husker receivers, Jacory, Barney, Dane, Nyziah, Hunter, just to name a couple. Now, he posted this video a couple hours ago on his Instagram. I'll show you this while I'm talking. This was just all of the highlights from this event. He worked out with them for multiple days, so it wasn't a one-day event. He was down there in Texas for a couple days last week, getting that work in with multiple Husker receivers. So the first thing that you're going to notice in this video is there was a surprise player who ended up making the trip. So we knew that, of course, Jacory was going, Dane, Nyziah, Hunter, Janiran, and Heinrich Haarberg. There was one extra player who went, and that was Luke Lindenmeyer. So this is not a shock to me, and this is most notably because Heinrich Haarberg was going. And I told you guys earlier, the reason why Heinrich Haarberg was going on this event isn't because he was the starting tight end. And that's not to discredit Heinrich Haarberg. He had a good spring ball, but the reason why he was going is because he's Dylan Raiola's best friend, and Dylan had to bring him along. Now, the reason why Luke Lindenmeyer ended up making the trip is because Luke Lindenmeyer, he was the starting tight end all of spring practice, and he played very well. So it was kind of disrespectful originally for, okay, Heinrich Haarberg to make the trip, but the starting tight end actually not to make the trip. So he ended up inviting Luke Lindenmeyer, and he had some good moments throughout this video as you just saw. So that was the video that he posted. Luke Lindenmeyer was there. Now, a couple other big-time storylines that we've learned not through that video are other things. Of course, Dayton Raiola was also throwing passes. Dayton looked very good. And I'm telling you, he's looking more and more like his brother every single day, at least from a stature standpoint. When Nebraska originally started recruiting him, he was, 5'10". He was kind of a bowling ball figure, right? Now he's really slimmed down. He's about 6'2", 6'3". So he looks like his brother. He's looking good. And Dayton Raiola, he has a lot of zip on that football, has pretty good accuracy. So hopefully Dayton Raiola can continue to develop. But again, him working out with a bunch of really good Nebraska wide receivers who are going to be future NFLers, guys like Dane, Jacory, Barney, that's only going to make Dayton Raiola better as his career progresses. And he has a big senior year of high school. So, and hopefully he can continue to shoot up the recruiting rankings. Again, he has high potential, man. Just very, very raw. But it's interesting that Dayton was there getting that work in as well alongside his brother. And then a couple other things I noticed. Jacory Barney looked very good. But the thing about Jacory Barney that I thought was really impressive, he looked big. Okay, we knew last year, Jacory Barney, while he was so dynamic, he was such a game changer, I mean, he was all skin and bones, right? He was very, very skinny. Jacory Barney's been getting in the weight room all of winter conditioning, all of spring ball. I told you guys that on the channel as that progressed. And you could see that in that video. Again, he has a lot more muscle on him, and that's going to be very important this year, especially when he's beating press coverage, man coverage. Jacory Barney is going to be a lot better in that aspect. And then Nyziah Hunter, I mean, he also looked big, continued to put on weight. Nyziah Hunter, he's a really good stature on him already, so I was intrigued by their size. Then Dylan Raiola, I mean, the accuracy, we've heard some good things, not only through that video, but the people who were in attendance, the videographers who were in attendance. The Dylan Raiola actually looked a lot better. Now, of course, in that video I just showed you, they're not going to put Dylan Raiola's lowlights on there. Like if he duffed a football and he, completely missed Dane over the middle, they're not going to show that in the video. But for the most part, it looked like, again, not just from that video, but what I saw in spring practice, what I saw with my own eyes during the spring game, Dylan Raiola has actually looked a lot improved, whether that was over the middle with that zip on the football, that deep ball actually that we're looking for, that accuracy outside the numbers. So again, Dylan Raiola, that was a focal point this offseason. How can we continue to upgrade this accuracy, particularly 15, 20 yards down the field? And you saw that once again throughout this video. And then last but not least, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway. Again, continuing to build relationships between Dylan Raiola and the rest of the receiver corps. I'm telling you, that's the most important thing about this trip. It's important that they're getting the work in, but it's very important that they're building relationship, they're building tendencies. So, for example, if Dane and Dylan Raiola end up becoming best friends, that's very important on the football field because then Dylan Raiola trusts Dane a little bit more. And it's a big third down. He knows where Dane is going to be on the football field. They can connect for a big conversion. So, listen, it was very important that they all went on this trip, not just Dane, but again, Jacory Barney continue to build our relationship. Nyziah Hunter, Luke Lindenmeyer, of course, Haarberg. So, very, very, very interesting. But I like that Dylan Raiola does this. Again, it should be noted, Matt Rule has nothing to do with this. This was not something that Matt Rule said, oh, you guys got to go down to Texas and work out. Dana Holgorsen has nothing to do with this. Dylan Raiola said it himself. I want to do this because I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to bring the best receivers on Nebraska's football team. We're going to go down and work. And I know I got some questions. Why did Isaiah Mozee not go? Why did Demitrius Bell not go? Why did Cortez Mills not go? Well, as for the two true freshmen, just because they're not good enough yet, right? They're not the top 5 receivers on this team. And as for Demitrius Bell, the reason why he didn't go is just because he's still coming back from injury. They don't want to risk anything there. So interesting stuff. Again, wrapping that up. But now summer workouts begin. So every single player for Nebraska is back on campus effective today. They're starting to begin workouts tomorrow. There's a couple big storylines. The first thing that's a huge storyline, some of the true freshmen who were not early enrollees are now officially on campus. Guys like Jeremiah Jones, 6'4" wide receiver, freak athlete, is now in Lincoln. Cade Petrusek, freak athlete on the D-line. Malcolm Simpson, freak athlete on the D-line. Bunch of offensive linemen like Juju Mark, Sean Heberbeck, guys who have really lofty expectations. All of those guys are now on campus putting that work in. So it begins now for a lot of those guys to potentially get on the field immediately. The two that I have my eyes out for to play off the get-go, we saw 2 last year in Keona Davis and Card Nelson who weren't early enrollees and played immediately. My 2 that I'm looking out for, Cade Petrusek and Jeremiah Jones. Those guys are just have such great ceilings, but they also have high floors. They're already ready to go. So I'm expecting both those guys to potentially play if they can do all the right things from now up until fall camp. But again, summer workouts beginning right now. It's kind of like OTAs in the NFL. So those guys are going to report. They're going to begin to watch film, which is very important. They're going to get back in the weight room. They're going to do a bunch of conditioning. They're not really practicing, so they're not really throwing around the football unless it's, just something completely informal. But again, it's just getting back in that zone, getting ready for football season, and again, getting back for fall camp, which is going to be very important, of course, beginning in late July. So summer workouts getting going. That's going to be something I'm going to watch out for. And then last but not least, something that I want to talk about with you, Nebraska has a big recruiting camp today. Trey Taylor is in town along with a bunch of other big-time Nebraska recruits in the 2026 class, 2027 class, and 2028 class. Most of these guys in the 26 class who are attending, they're trying to earn offers, but there's a lot of high 4-star recruits in the 27 class, 28 class who are just continuing to work out, trying to get better. A lot of local prospects are in town as well, coming out of Omaha. So it's important that Trey Taylor's here for this because he's going to peer recruit everybody of all classes, right? He's going to be kind of an ambassador for Nebraska football. Now, I tweeted this out. There's one guy who I have my eyes out for who's attending this Nebraska camp today. This is Jamarion Brown, who's a 3-star wide receiver coming out of Indiana. He's listed at 5'11", 175. The offer list is not phenomenal here. Obviously, got a lot of MAC schools in there, but he had an Ole Miss offer recently. Alabama had some interest. Notre Dame had some interest. Oregon had some interest. He's visited those schools in the past. So Jamarion Brown's a guy who I was doing my research on. Very speedy, very high ceiling. If he impresses the staff today, I could very well see him get an offer when it's all said and done, whether that's tonight, whether that's tomorrow. And then if he gets an offer, expecting to move pretty quickly, Nebraska could have an official visit with him, and then he could commit. But this is somebody who I was looking at, I'm like, this could be a hidden gem. This could be somebody who Nebraska really likes, and again, has some interest here from some notable schools. Ole Miss offering him recently says a lot. So Jamarion Brown, watch out for that name, but Nebraska hosting a recruiting camp today. All right, guys, that is everything going on. Let me know your thoughts down below about everything. Hey, if you made this far in the video, hit that like button and subscribe. Have a great Sunday, everybody. I appreciate you guys. As always, go be great. Go my rule. See you in the next one.